peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? Let's get into a little Constitution talk. Naturally, because of all the things going on, I wanted to kind of visit this issue right here. I'm seeing a lot of voices on different sides of the political aisle say some things. And sometimes I wonder when people say things like, is anybody reading the Constitution, or are we just assuming what the Constitution says and assuming and asserting certain things that are not true? So you see a lot of violent protesters that are, what they're saying is their ability to protest violently is protected by the U.S. Constitution. That is not correct. That is not accurate. And me personally, peaceful protests definitely protected under the U.S. Constitution. And any government authority in the United States that were to try to quell, curtail, and stop a peaceful protest, I would be against 100%, because that is against the supreme law of our land, the U.S. Constitution. But I wanted to actually see what the U.S. Constitution says, since everybody's talking about it. But a lot of these rioters, I'm not talking about protesters, a lot of these rioters are saying things that's just completely not true. So let's get to this. So the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which I'm sure all of you know, I don't think this is hidden knowledge from anyone, but we're going to read it. So the Constitution says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free practice thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people, peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So when you look at the climate and everything going on in the country right now, there's two things that stand out to me right out the gate when I'm reading the First Amendment. One, I think about Gavin Newsom in California, not just Gavin Newsom, right? It wasn't just him. There was many governors across the United States that held to these unconstitutional stances on this issue. But I want to deal with Gavin Newsom specifically because, he's in the news more recently. So when you look at the First Amendment, it says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free practice thereof. So two things stand out. One, Congress makes laws, not governors. It's the first thing. Second thing is, how can you make a law that violates this amendment, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, to tell people you can't go to church, churches are shut down? This is specifically protected in this First Amendment. So what gives him the right legally to do that in the United States. Nothing gives him that right. He doesn't have the right. If we could all Monday morning quarterback and say what we would do or what we wouldn't do, but sometimes I think to myself, if I was the preacher of a church, how would I handle this situation? You know what? I think I would sue my local government. I would, for violation of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And I submit to you this. A good lawyer could probably argue, I believe, that the BLM movement is a religious movement in a lot of ways. So in some ways, you could, again, so first of all, Congress is supposed to be making laws, right? So that's first thing. But Gavin Newsom, Cuomo, de Blasio, all of these guys are they're not making laws, but they're establishing orders that respect the air quotes right of BLM protesters to be out on the street during this quote unquote pandemic. I'm going to call it a plandemic. They give the right to these BLM protesters, or they recognize the air quote right of the BLM protesters and rioters, right? Because there's rioters in there too. There are some people who are peacefully protesting, but there's rioters in there, a lot of them. So they completely respect that. Go riot, do what you want, go on the streets. We're going to celebrate that. It's all good. But they don't want you to go to church because it's a large gathering. Like, have you seen these protests? Have you seen these riots? Gathering doesn't get any bigger than that. So they respect these people's right to riot and protest, but you can't go to church. Direct violation of the First Amendment. But the next thing that really is really annoying to me, because I keep hearing a lot of these protesters, these Antifa type and these BLM Marxists talking about their right to do what they're doing. You don't have a right to tear up cities. You don't have a right to terrorize cities. You don't have a right to terrorize streets. The Constitution is very specific. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. The optimal and operative word right there is peaceably. What does that word peaceably mean? Because clearly these Antifa types and these protesters don't know what peaceable means. So let's look up peaceable. Inclined to avoid argument or violent conflict. Free from argument or conflict. Peaceful. I'm just saying. So something I don't think these rioters and protesters are aware of. And this is where, so what many people don't know is the way the framers set up the Constitution. Look, these were not perfect men, right? These are not perfect men. The country has scars. These men had things that they should have handled and solved from the get-go, slavery being one of them. There's many other things that we should have dealt with from the onset. But with that being said, there is no one in any one of these movements, BLM, Antifa, or any one of these movements, that hold a candle to the men, the minds of the men who framed the U.S. Constitution. I don't idolize this document. It's not a perfect document at all. The only written literature on this planet that's perfect is the Bible. But this is a pretty freaking good document, if I do say so myself, the U.S. Constitution. And one of the things that is so beautiful about it is power doesn't rest on one person or one body. It's spread across the different branches. So in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, the Constitution says to provide for calling forth the militia to execute laws of the Union, suppress insurrection, and repel invasion. What is an insurrection? Let's look that up. So this is the power that Congress has right here, Section 8, right? So Congress has the power in in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute laws of the Union, suppress insurrection, and repel invasion. All right, so let's look up insurrection. What does that mean? A violent uprising against an authority or government. Rebellion, revolt, uprising, mutiny, revolution, insurgents, riot, sedition. There's war. Subversion, civil disorder, unrest, anarchy, coup d'etat. So, the U.S. Constitution actually does give Congress the right to call in the local militias, the National Guard, to quell what we see going on. So the fact that you have a lot of politicians that are laying all of this at the feet of President Trump is disingenuous. This doesn't all fall on him. He is not a supreme leader, a supreme ruler. He does not have supreme power. That is not how the framers set up the U.S. government. Executive, judicial, legislative. The different branches of government. Separate but equal authority. So the authority never rests on one body. A pretty decent checks and balance. And on top of that checks and balance, we get to vote for who we want in there. These people work for us. So we are the ultimate check and balance against them. If we feel like, this is why when I hear people, look, I understand people are disillusioned with voting and elections, and I get it. I definitely get it. And I wouldn't ridicule anyone for not voting. Honestly, I wouldn't. If you don't want to vote, that is completely up to you. I am no political proselyte. I've said that before. But this is what I do think. If you're not going to vote, then you probably shouldn't complain. Because a lot of people think their vote doesn't matter. Well, actually, your vote does matter, and I'm going to show you how. When you don't vote in that local election, when you don't vote for the senators, the congressmen and women in your state, and somebody gets in that seat and they give, let's say, the majority of the power to a group of people that wants to subvert U.S. law, you didn't go vote. You think if you didn't go vote, if you had that idea, you think you're the only person with that idea? There's many people that are apathetic when it comes to voting. I'm an active voter. And like I said, I would not criticize anyone for not voting. I've been an active voter since I was 18 years old. Since I was able to vote, I've been an active voter. And one of the main reasons I'm an active voter is because I disagree with the notion that my vote doesn't matter. There's power in numbers. Look, if these riots and these protests and Antifa and BLM hasn't shown anything, it's shown that there is power in numbers. And look, this is what's crazy. With the advent of the internet, we can get together like never before, especially when it comes to voting. And I know there's some people who are inclined to think, well, these social media platforms, they censor us. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to mention it again. I am on Minds. I am on Parler. I am on BitChute. These are all platforms that welcome free and open debate. We are not stuck with only Twitter and only YouTube and only Instagram and Facebook. That is just the social media publishers, because they're acting like publishers and not platforms. That is just the social media publishers that people choose to use. You can use other platforms. They are out there. They exist. So we could mobilize enough people, like in a local election. If you felt like, yo, this man right here, this woman right here, they're not doing their job, we need to get them out of there. You could do that. You could definitely mobilize people together, get them to vote. Because the thing is, like I said, the power in our government is spread out. It's spread out amongst the different branches. The president does not have supreme power. The Supreme Court does not have supreme power. Congress does not have supreme power. Right? So when everybody thinks election and they think president, they think, oh, it doesn't matter what I do because the president's going to do whatever he wants to do. No, it absolutely does matter. And you know what? If nothing else, this last election cycle and what we see now should prove to you that it absolutely does matter what you do at the voting booth. Republicans have the Senate. Donald Trump is a Republican president, even though I think he's more independent than Republican personally. He just ran under the Republican ticket. But Congress is held by the Democrats. And they have been holding a lot of things up. You know what that proves? That proves that your vote absolutely does matter. Because the president doesn't have supreme authority and supreme control. People need to get this through their heads. The president does not have supreme authority. That is not a thing in the United States. And it kills me when I hear people talking about these things, because I'm like, man, do y'all even read the Constitution? Does anybody read the Constitution? Is that even a thing now? It's clear that the U.S. Constitution is not taught in public school nor in college. I don't think it was really taught heavily when I was growing up, but I do remember going over the U.S. Constitution. But most of the things I know about the Constitution, I've learned on my own, just reading through it myself. But a lot of these Antifa, BLM rioters thinking that the government doesn't have the right to quell what they're doing. No, the government absolutely has the right to do it. The problem is it's the House and Senate that has the power to do something about it, and they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything at all. Look, I'm no political proselyte. I've told you guys this before. I'm a registered independent. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just going to lay it all out on the table for you. First of all, we shouldn't have a two-party system. That's first thing. Second of all, Democrats should be abolished. My personal opinion, they're of no use to anybody, and they're of no use to our country right now. That's not me telling you that the Republicans are saviors of the union. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Democrats are the destruction of the union. Stay frosty, people.